So for First Sudanese Civil War, this civil war lasted between 1955 and 1972. This is so just getting into it real quick. So during the First Sudanese Civil War, the Sudanese government fought against Southern Sudan Liberation Movement, also known as the SSLM. So the war was started because South Sudan and its regions wanted a fair government and representation. Um, just the reason why this all started in the first place. So this all happened because both the British and the Egyptian empires failed to recognize the religious disconnection between the two countries. Um, so North Sudan is heavily Muslim. They believe in Sharia law and all that. And South Sudan is very Christian. So they're not conflicting religions, but throughout history they are. Um, so they had very conflicting interests, and they both had different influences from different religions. Um, I would say the British and Egyptian governments are mainly to blame because of this, because once Britain allowed Sudan, for independence in 1955, I believe like right before Sudan was granted independence, the war started. Um, getting into that real quick. Yeah. So the war began on August 18th, 1955. So during this time, members of the South Sudan administration formed a mutiny against the Sudanese government. Um, so the South Sudan administration, it wasn't like a full out like invasion type war. A lot of it was just guerrilla warfare and terrorist like tactics. So a lot of it just like bombing and just a lot of that. So a lot of it was focused on civilians. It was not very good. So during this time, a lot of insurgencies arose throughout Sudan, um, South Sudan. Um, so during all this fighting, the South Sudan, the Sudan African Union, or the SANU was formed. So SANU. Um, so the leader of SANU was William Deng, and William Deng was a part of the Dinka tribe, and so the Dinka tribe has had various atrocities committed towards them, mainly slavery. Um, so William Deng, he believed in resistance from Arab colonizers, and he also wanted democratic socialism. So once the Sudanese government, Sudanese army took power of the government, um, Deng and several other South Sudan politicians were exiled. Uh, Deng was supported by almost all of Sudan, um, all of South Sudan, and as he formed the and during this time he also formed the Congress of New Forces. So the CNF was a unification of the three regions of South Sudan. This is really important because there's North Sudan and then there's South Sudan. That's usually what you see on the map. But South Sudan is divided up into three categories, and I'll get into that further on the next slide. Um, so Deng wanted to unify all these regions, and so when he was exiled, the Sudanese government declared freedom of speech. So they allowed freedom of speech, and they also allowed political parties to run for office. And soon after this, Deng returned, and he decided to run under the Sanu party for presidency. So during the 1968 election, Deng won by a landslide. Um, and as they were actually counting out, or like they were when the results were being announced, Deng was assassinated. He was shot in the head um, in 1968. So then in 1972, the Civil War ended, the First Civil War. And the Civil War ended because of the Addis Ababa Agreement. Um, This agreement was signed by the Sudanese government and also the South Sudan rebels.